Well, shalom, everybody. I'd like you to take a look at what's on this paper. You can see that I had faxed off. It is a document that is accepted in any court as evidence that I had sent this off to this Senator Ted Cruz. And of course, it's not just to Ted Cruz, it was to those such as, Bernie Sanders here and Kamala Harris and everybody. And there's something I very seldom ever even like to talk about is politics. Okay, but it's just such important testimony that I have to give to you for our King's sake against the corruption that's in the justice system today. It's so rotten right now that there are individuals wanting to be your leader, to be your president or whatever it is, over you, exposing their own selves as the promise of how they're going to act once they get that office, because they're already doing it now. Because Bernie, and I'm not picking on you alone, Bernie, I doubt you'll even see this video, but most all the politicians, if you take a look into their portfolios, I am certain, I bet you a quarter, you'd find that most of them have an interest in this prison system, the judicial system. Okay, now I want to point out some things that, Bernie and Ted Cruz, they're buddies. They're all buddies, kind of like, those that are wrestlers. They'll go out and put on an act for people, and they'll knock each other up against the ropes and, do the things that professional wrestlers do. I guess they just now have got the status of being performers, theatrical performers or something of this sort, because that's what it is. It's all theatrics. That's what this here Ronald McDonald land that people want to call the country. Well, the government's not the country. And I don't want to speak against the leaders of the people because Scripture tells me not to. So I keep out of politics. What I want to hit on here are these promises being made so that these conspirators, these known felons, okay, and I say known felons without fear because I know it's true. And I wrote back, as you had seen on the front of this page here, it was the fax I sent out. It was on 02/09/2017. And in here, right on the cover sheet, I don't know if you can see this or not because I don't have my face on the camera there so I can tell or not, but if you can put this on pause here and there, if you can read it, and do read it, you'll see that I'll just read part of it. It says, this is the cover sheet to Ted Cruz, who I was requesting or requiring an investigation into these very things that these people are knowing and now saying, oh, well, we'll get rid of it. Well, the thing is, buddy, you are a federal criminal for not opening your mouth to those that have something to do that can get this done. It's a federal law. It's a federal code. It says here, cover sheet letter 4, release form pursuant to Privacy Act of 1974 to authorize you to take action on the information that I disclose to you concerning known commissioned felonies as required by Title 18 USC Section 4, misprision of felony. On February 8th, 2017, I sent you an email to casework@cruz.senate.gov. I think maybe hopefully you can see that right there, where I sent this email to him. And I'll be glad to send any of y'all this email to show you a great list of commissioned felonies that were carried out in conspiracy by those who have power or authority, elected position or hired position in the federal, state, county, city governments, towns, whatever, these governments, Ronald McDonald lands. And I sent him an email, and I sent out to over 80 different governmental, news, law enforcement agencies, and not one of them ever sent me back a reply, except for that which was automated. Oh, we'll get back with you within 24, 48, or 72 hours. And they never did afterwards. Okay? But I sent this out, and it's been circulated. There was a bill sent all the way up to Obama for them putting me in jail because I wrote a contractual agreement. Nothing was unlawful in there whatsoever. According to man's law, and this is the USC, the UCC, the Uniform Commercial Code, that the entire world and universe basically operate under, and it encompasses contract law, which they used your tax dollar, put me in the private cell, solitary confinement, after taking me from Taylor County and Callahan County in Texas to Shackelford, Texas, in my underwear. Didn't have a t-shirt, just my underwear, and my shoes, not my shoes, my socks and sandals they gave me to wear. I had to turn them sandals back in when Yahshua got me out of jail now. 44 days later, they starved me with your tax dollars because they kidnapped me. And I'll show you these things. Ted Cruz knows about it. Bernie knows about it. And I bet you Kamala Harris here knows about it, as well as most all the politicians. I'm sure it was a big joke to them, because when you have a system that's over the people, as Bernie's going to explain to you, he knows what's going on. He's got his fingers in the till there. And why will he want people to vote that's in the prisons? And I say, that would be great, except for those that were convicted by a jury that should have been put to death. Okay? Rape, things of this sort, murder. Okay? If they should have been put to death and were convicted by a jury, no, they shouldn't have any say at all. But you've got probably 90% of the people in the jails right now don't even know why they're there. And you know it, Bernie, because these judges will set these bails or bonds on people they can't come up with, so that the county or the city or the state or the federal government, whatever facility they're in, they generate money that goes right back to these people's pockets. So they have this interest, and it's called a conflict of interest, and they're not even supposed to serve. Remember when they went through and made President Trump get rid of all of his businesses? He had to turn everything over to all his children and stuff. Remember? Why? When yet, these individuals, who I am absolutely certain, and I don't have to do the research, because he's got ties. He wants votes out of those prisons. And he knows it. All he's got to do is tell the prisoners, hey, I'll tell you what, you vote for me, and I'll give you a steak every 23rd day of the month. You'll get a real steak. Just vote for me. And he could get the wardens to do this without it going across the news or anything, because they all have ties. Think about it. We're going to get into the price it is to hold one man as a prisoner in these facilities. And then you multiply it and figure out how many dollars are being generated, when all they should have to do is maybe put them under house arrest and put them in somebody's home that'll watch them, and maybe give them a little bit of upright encouragement, and maybe only charge the government $20,000 a year. I mean, that's more than I make right now. I wouldn't mind having a roommate that was under arrest, in my house here, where I would get twice the amount of what I'm getting right now, just to have someone that I could maybe befriend and open a different dimension to by our King's holy words. Who knows? It could work. But anyway, back to this cover sheet here, that these people are all in conspiracy with, and they own the judicial system. They're the ones that regulate it with their new laws and this and that and everything they got to vote into, and a bunch of them aren't even enacted. And without them being enacted, they're not supposed to act on them. But people are so silly, they'll actually want to vote for these people when they're up there saying, look, I'm a violator of these very things that Al-Yahnai Hawkins sent to Ted Cruz and was ignored. There's never been an answer on this here that I sent out. It says, on February 8th, 2017, I sent you an email to casework@cruz.senate.gov at 1:52 p.m. with subject line, and this is the email that I sent. This is the second notice, and I've sent out over 3 now, and Ted Cruz has never once answered me or even acknowledged that I've done this, and yet they know the problem is so severe that they're using it to become a president now. You want to talk about, the good being evil and the evil being good and all that? It's like, wow. But this is what the subject line said. And according to law, when you send a governmental agency an email, they are by law, they have to read it before they act on it, and they even have to keep copies of it. At 1:52 p.m. with subject line, forward, second notice and claim of your personal liabilities by neglect of Title 18 U.S.C. Section 4 misprision of felony. Please act or take action now. That was the line. I sent over 80 different agencies that none, even the Texas Rangers, the FBI, all of them, for which I require and wish that you take immediate action and launch an immediate investigation that I may be made whole. Remedy is not allowed here in Texas, nor the Constitution, Bill of Rights, rules, regulations, codes, laws, and/or etc. upheld or acknowledged, but known conspirators, known and unknown felons are rewarded for their unconscionable acts, abuse of powers, official oppressions, RICO Act violations, moral turpitudes, and/or etc. This is what I sent Ted. And down at the bottom, okay, hopefully you could have read that, says, I hereby require and wish for immediate action to be taken as the felonies are ongoing. Also attached is a letter of entrapment to violate my terms of bail. If I do step foot into that courtroom, I need protection. Big letters, I need protection. And felonious conspirators need to be investigated and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, as it is your duty and responsibility to do so, and it is time to clean up these moral turpitudes and/or etc. In other words, time to drain the swamp. So anyway, what Bernie Sanders wants to do here in this Kamala, first let's go over here, because first, the bond issue is what caught my ear to even listen to these guys. But listen to what Bernie says in this, and I play it for educational purposes only. I don't have no place to donate or anything like that on my site. And I'm just a little disappointed with the things that are coming out to elect these officials today. I mean, it's sinful. It's they know these atrocities are going on, and they're trying to make a profit off it. And whether that profit is in votes or confidences or whatever else that they're rooting for. It's like insanity. People are allowing it, but what can I do? I voice my opinion, they bulldoze my properties. I voice my opinion, they burn me out. You know, it's like they put me in jail for 44 days and starve me. And the only reason I got out, I mean, I was in there, and I'm going to show you, by a bond with a judge, a justice of the peace who only had authority up to $10,000 in controversy, put a $30,000 bond on me, and then they burned my house and my church down and my vehicle while they had me in solitary confinement planning to murder me. But a bail bondsman came, and he got me out because he couldn't believe the story he was hearing from a guy that used to be a friend of mine. Okay? And they got me out. Otherwise, I was going to be there, and they was going to carry me out in a body bag using your tax dollars. That's called a misappropriation of public and federal funds. Because once it gets to the county or the cities or the towns or whatever, these federal funds, they get mixed in with the public funds. So not only is it a public crime to misappropriate public funds, which I proved in court and the judges let them off, it's also a federal crime, which these guys are guilty of because they're breaking the Constitution and everything else. It talks about, you know, not having unreasonable bail and all these things, you know. But when I write to the politicians and I let them know what's going on, they all had hand in it. If they didn't stand up and say, this is wrong, they had hand in it. Now, Bernie here, and I'm not picking on you alone, Bernie, because you're not the only fellow. You've got constituents, and you've got others that are stepping up to that plate as well, because you know the corruption that's there, and instead of doing an investigation, you want to pull a little bit of quackery. Put a little salve on something that needs sutures, you know. It's like, you got an earache, so give you an enema. Crying out loud, Bernie, you know, it's deeper than these bonds. The problem is people are being put in jail for no reason whatsoever, and everybody, because they're put in jail, whether they're guilty or not, they look down on these people. Well, these last days, Yahweh says that the doors of the prisons are going to be opened. All right? And, you know, whether it's by this coming, because Enoch did promise over here. Enoch said right straight out, he said, cry for judgment, and it shall appear for you, for all your tribulation shall be demanded for investigation. Yes, they're going to investigate all these things they've done to me. And very few, they think I'm crazy or I should just let it go. It's like, no, you can't do that. Enoch says that there's going to be an investigation. It says from the responsible authorities, from everyone who assisted those who plundered you. Well, who plundered me? Well, it was local government. But the thing is, who assisted them? Here's one of them. Okay? Ted Cruz. You know, elect him today. Anyway, let's hear what Bernie says here about these votes.
Of our state's history. What our Constitution says is that everybody can vote. That is true. So people in jail can vote. Now, here is my view. If somebody commits a serious crime, sexual assault, murder, they're going to be punished. They may be in jail for 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, their whole lives. That's what happens when you commit a serious crime. But I think the right to vote is inherent to our democracy. Yes, even for terrible people. Because once you start chipping away and you say, well, that guy committed a terrible crime, not going to let him vote. Or that person did that, not going to let that person vote. You're running down a slippery slope. So I believe that people who commit crimes, they pay the price. When they get out of jail.
I mean, there's so many things there that he says that he contradicts himself in. He says, you know, that it... Anyway, it says, Senator Bernie Sanders said although people commit serious crimes like sexual assault and murder, they should be allowed to vote from prison because their right to vote is inherent to our democracy. It's not really that at all. In fact, your vote doesn't really matter to begin with. People can vote all they want. It's these electoral colleges and such that put the people in, and then they're just puppets on the string to those that are hidden that put these people in. And he talks about the slippery slope. Talks about democracy and these things. Okay, well, the thing is, if somebody is so degenerate that they have to be put in prison, and it's done by a jury. There's so many people nowadays put in prison they don't even have a jury, because I have only had one jury trial, and I've been through many, 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 many court cases. I paid for jury trials, but they refused to allow me to have them. Okay, this is the justice system. So if you have a jury that's actually convicted you, even the juries aren't right, because they're not peers of whoever it is that's there to begin with. I mean, for instance, I once had a what they called a traffic violation, and I told them I had the right to the freedom of travel. I wasn't driving, I was traveling, this, that, the other thing. Well, they had me go before a jury trial, and they picked all these people that must have been 90 and 112 years old. They're all in the jury, and I'd have to ask the judge if he could wake them up. As I was giving my offered testimony from the witness stand. They were sleeping and everything. It was already predetermined. Why? I proved to that court. The judge congratulated me. Even the city attorney said he's never heard such a well-presented matter in all the days he's been an attorney. However, and I was showing them, that you don't have to have registration or a license, things of the sort, because they're actually unconstitutional. It's a privilege. You're buying the privilege. That's why you pay for your license and such. Anyway, these old people, well, they were brought up having to do it, they gave up the right to travel freely, because they thought it would help build roads and this and that, whatever their thoughts were. So they did it month after month, year after year. They're now 80, 90, 100 years old, sitting in the jury. And, well, they're listening to me thinking I'm foolish, no matter what facts I bring forth, or the laws, or, the statutes, codes, whatever you want to call them. And they all said that I was guilty. I should have had, I did have a driver's license, it was the registration, things of that sort. But, they found me guilty, and the judge only charged me like $75 or $175, something like that. But it's on the books now. Okay, it's a precedent, and they've used my court cases before as precedents in some pretty heavy-duty cases out there. And of course they use it for the negative of what I was saying, trying to prove their point that was built in heresy, totally against the principles of the laws of nature to begin with. Anyway, just to show you, here is where the bond was placed upon me. Okay, it says $30,000, and it was done by complaint here. This is a couple conspirators that was the district and county attorney and his sidekick. And they wrote this up because I had billed a man who acted as a judge for a little over $1 million for contempt of his own courtroom. I waited one day for him to finish his cases, and it was I can't remember, it was before 4 o'clock even. And I insisted that he take a look at my emancipation motion that I had filed because I wanted to emancipate from the corruption of this world. I wanted to emancipate from the servitude of Satan the devil because she put out my tooth. And at one time she was my ruler, but through her minions, I lost my front tooth. So therefore, I'm entitled to be emancipated from servitude to her and be set free. Now, the judge didn't want to hear nothing of it. So he was rude to me. He screamed at me like 30-some times to shut up. Shut up! Shut up! It was awful. I mean, Baphomet was jumping all over. And I told him, I says, man, I said, can't you feel the drop in the temperature in here? I says, you know, Baphomet is having a field day. I says, but I ain't scared of her. And I'm not as scared of you because one day there's going to be justice. Yahshua said so. And he got up and he ran out. So I billed him, you know, a little over $1 million for contempt of his own court. The emancipation papers were filed as a lost and found. I was lost. Our King Yahshua did call for me, and therefore I gave him 30 days for anybody that had a superior claim over Yahshua, our King, to claim me as their property to do so. Otherwise, the judge was to sign the papers, and he didn't. So he still hasn't, and he's in contempt of court. So I billed him, and I billed him each time he had screamed at me to shut up. And I billed him for the contempt of his own court, for abuse of powers and everything else. And it came out to a little over $1 million. But the thing is, it's still ticking off. Every minute, I think I charge them like $1. So this has been going on since August 25th of 2016. But anyway, and the reason I got arrested, okay, why this here Tim Barton and Shane Deal, the Callahan County attorney, but he also acted as a district attorney. And this T. Barton, he's just a thug, from what I understand, from what I've seen. You know, I mean, I love the guy. I just hate what he does. But you can see right in here, hopefully, there is a number that they give there, and the reason why I was supposed to be arrested and have this $30,000 bond on me. And this guy, being a county attorney, should know that a justice of the peace, especially Steve Odom, only had jurisdiction up to $10,000. Now, every court is supposed to kick out things like this. But this is how the conspiracy was, because the Texas District Court had a man, John Weeks, acting as the circuit judge. And he was over Taylor, Callahan, and Coleman counties. He owned these places. He was the king. What he said went. Okay? And I billed him over $1 million, which the thing here says. But the reason they had me arrested was because it says, he says down here, on or about July 18, 2016, Al-Yahnai Hawkins, Reverend of the Genesis 2 Church of the Health and Healing, sent 42nd District Judge John Weeks a letter in which Hawkins complains about not being fully heard in court on July 14, 2016. It wasn't a complaint. It was a bill. I charged him, just as Enoch said I was going to do. He said I would charge them. I would bill them, and that's what I did. It says Hawkins was in court to complain about custody matters involving his ex-wife. I wasn't even there for that. I didn't care about that. I was there because I wanted my excommunication papers, my lost and found papers, to be signed so that me, this property, could be turned over to Yahshua, our King, lawfully by the beast who put out my tooth. However, Hawkins had not properly filed any motions or petitions that would have given the court anything to hear or rule upon. Well, I certainly did. I had it right there. Showed him it was 30 days. Shut up! Hawkins insisted on being heard, and after Judge Weeks gave him some time to explain what Hawkins wanted, there was no time to explain. He was too busy yelling, shut up, and there were, as I was sitting there, it always occurs when I'm in court. All these guys, plainclothes guys and stuff, will start coming in with their guns, and a lot of times these other attorneys, they would come in and they would fill up the seats pretty much, just to see what was going to take place. It was explained to Hawkins that he had not filed anything upon which an action could be taken. Hawkins had to be ushered from the courtroom by the bailiff and a deputy. I wasn't ushered. I walked out freely. After the judge ran off, I walked out and didn't, it's okay. I'll bill you. That's all I had to carry. Why'd I have to be ushered? I wasn't there to be violent or anything. But it doesn't say, that they had to touch me, because they never did. They were all over the place. But it says the letter dated July 18, 2016 contained a large, now this is why I was arrested. Please pay attention. This is my criminal act for them to use your tax dollars to put me into solitary confinement and starve me for 44 days before our king had sent a bail bondsman to get me out. And I went in weighing 207 or something like that, came out 160, something like that. Yeah, it's trying to kill me. Didn't work. 44 days Joshua let me fast, and I prayed, don't let me do this for 44 days. Anyway, the letter dated July 18th, 2016 contained a large amount of nonsense regarding contracts. Can you see that? Regarding contracts, common law, and me, Hawkins's declaration that I am a man. So because my contract that I sent, which was a negotiable instrument, that was dated July 18, 2016, contained a large amount of nonsense regarding contracts. See, they don't uphold contracts in Texas. That's how they can throw you in jail, toss away the key, because you can't come up with a bail bond or whatever. And if you do, they're so vindictive, they'll come and get you on another offense that they don't have to let you know about. And they put you in there. I mean, I like the cop shows. They say, well, we only got 24 hours to hold them, or we got 72 hours, or we got, whatever amount of time to hold them, and then we got to let them go. Sanders will tell you that they're lying. The letter contained a large amount of nonsense regarding contracts, common law, and Hawkins's declaration that I am a man. The letter also contains numerous statements about Hawkins's perceived mistreatment in court on July 14, 2016. That's where I billed him for all his conspiracies and everything else against the people, and claims that Judge Weeks owes Hawkins $1,138,348. So why didn't the bond reflect that amount if it was in controversy? Well, see, it's because this $30,000 bond was given to this judge. The judge right here, Steve Odom, that's a justice of the peace, and he said what the bond amount is, and he only has a jurisdiction to make a bond on anybody up to $10,000 in controversy. So he had $20,000 more for bond on me because I wrote a negotiable. It wasn't non-negotiable. Says negotiable right on it. Okay, and I sent it to a man. I didn't send it to a judge. I sent it to a man who acts as a judge. I didn't build the office of a judge. I built the office of nobody. I billed John Weeks for corrupting his office. That's what I billed him for. And this here judge only had jurisdiction up to a Class C misdemeanor involving traffic that was non-jailable. That's the highest thing he could go, or a civil matter up to $10,000 in controversy. That's all this man has authority to use his courtroom to enforce. In the mere fact that is said right in the complaint, over $1 million was in controversy. This man yet, that can only hear a matter up to $10,000, had me arrested. His jurisdiction is up to a non-jailable offense, a Class C misdemeanor in traffic. A traffic violation. But anyway, what's he put me in jail for? With your tax dollars? A felony. This man can't write out a warrant for a felony. And yet I'm in there. And Bernie here, over here with his lady friend, Kamala Harris, they both fall short in abolishing money bail. And they talk about this bail money that you pay to Satan to pay to bail, that this judge had no authority whatsoever to put me in jail, and they won't listen to it. I file papers on these things, and nobody answers me. No, not even Bernie. Ted, where are you, Ted? I was arrested as I went into the courtroom on August 25th to address a matter where my ex was breaching the contract, the divorce papers between her and I, wherein she stopped giving me visitation to my children. At first, I was awarded all my children because the court saw who she was, and she lied and had me thrown in jail and, tried to have my record smeared with, spousal violence, whatever, and she's the one that ripped the hide right off my arms. I was the only one dripping blood. She had no marks on her. She went to the emergency room, and they said, well, it's possible you could have trauma, under the skin or something that we just can't see. Yeah, well, look at my trauma. I mean, I was hanging meat where she just gunned me like a cat. And then said I beat her up. She even smashed an old rotted tomato in my face, but I never laid a finger on her. There was once that I did, many years before that. I told her stop acting like a child or I'd treat her like one, and I put her over my lap and I gave her 3 whacks on her butt and tossed her on the floor. I did that. That was a long time ago when some things were more allowable than now, but I would that she would never pushed it that far, and as Bernie's doing here. And her, they need to be put over someone's knee and spanked and thrown on the floor is what they need. I mean, listen to what's going on here. A growing movement across the country is exposing the injustices of our money, bail, and bond systems. Well, you wouldn't have these things if you didn't have these police that are basically nothing more in my eyes. My opinion is that they're nothing more than a criminal street gang. There are some that do help, but then you've got these criminal street gangs. I mean, you got the Bloods, and the Crips and stuff, and they see an old lady needing to get walked across the street. They help them across the street. I mean, even they do great deeds. But these people are putting people right into the jails where there's no charges against them. They take their clothes, they lose their jobs and everything, they got to get an attorney, thousands of dollars for something they didn't even do. Something they don't have a notion about. Maybe there was a whistleblower like I was. But there's so many out there, just put into jail. A lot of times, and it's known, some of these criminal street gangs, when they pull you over, they'll actually put narcotics into your vehicle, so they can get the arrest, so they can, they can get their, they can please people above them, they can go, whatever benefits they get out of it, they do these things for the most part. Now, you do have some that don't like it, but they're silenced, they can't say nothing. I mean, these people all the way at the top here, Bernie's talking these things. He knows these things have been taking place, and now he wants to use it as a platform instead of doing what he was supposed to do according to Title 18 of USC Section 4, felony of misprison, because you did not, Bernie, bring it forth to some judge or someone in a civil authority or in military authority about this known felony or commission felony that's been taking place. You've kept silent, even when I sent out my notices that I showed in here. And once again, I want you to see when this was sent out, if you can see it. I sent this out. Cost me a whole lot more money than what I had, but I sent it out just the same. And I got no response from Mr. Ted Cruz whatsoever. You could look those numbers up and see that I sent this. And they cover for one another. Bernie knows that the bond system sucks and he's been getting all this money, but I sent in and I showed him what's going on here. Even let him know in my email that there are so many people that are put in jail. The things that I wrote to Ted Cruz and all these other agencies, please give me your email. I'll send it to you. And you'll see that all these things that he's talking about, I addressed and said, you're guilty of these things to Ted Cruz and to all these other agencies. I said, you all are guilty. If you don't say something, if you don't report it, then you're violating the federal law, the federal code, the USC, Title 18, Section 4, felony of misprison. It's supposed to be bad. So they protect each other. They know what's going on, and now they're using it as a platform for you to vote for them, so that their known violations of the RICO Act, their known violations of your constitutional rights and everything are then okay. No, Enoch says there's going to be an investigation. These people are just trying to color things, whatever they're doing. But anyway, it says a growing movement across the country is exposing the injustices of our money, bail, and bond systems, which lock up as many as 400,000 people on any given day. What it didn't say there is how many people come up with the bail so they don't lose their jobs and everything else and gain these, unconscionable records put on them they have to carry for life because they had the money. This is those every day. As many as 400,000 people every day that just don't have the money. Like pulling someone over because they don't have insurance, and then charge them, $10,000 because they don't have insurance. Well, if I had $10,000, I'd have damn well paid for it. Simply because they are too poor to purchase their freedom. This large-scale organizing, which includes community bond funds that directly pay people's bail in more than 40 jurisdictions, has thrust the demand for the abolition of the money bail into the mainstream, blah, blah, blah. But then it gets down here. I had it, until I clicked on there. There's more money for jailers. Oh, you need to read this thing. But anyway, he's talking about this Baal. You can probably call her Baphomet now, or their cousins or something. It says our destructive and unjust cash bail process is part of our broken criminal justice system, and it must be ended. Okay? Now, there's a problem with that. They know it's broken, so what are they in office to do? They make all these laws to protect those who break it, to keep them out of jail, and put your grandma in there, you know, for shoplifting. When she wasn't shoplifting, she just maybe didn't have a receipt. You know, got it from some other store, you know, but they just figured that, you know, she probably maybe looked in her pocket, said, oh, shoot, I forgot I got that from, you know, Dollar Tree or something, and they caught her on a camera. Next thing you know, they're tackling her, you know, and hog tying her and beating her and throwing her in jail, and she ain't got money to get out, and now her whole family thinks she's a thief, and she ain't got no say. They don't let nobody go in to talk to her, you know, except for like attorneys like they sent for me, and I told them about the bail and everything. I told them everything. I showed them. It was the first and last time I seen the man. He was a court-appointed attorney. They sent him in days later than the time the law allows for him to come, and then he never did file anything on my behalf to get me out, so he was a conspirator in there too. And that was the attorney, one of the agents of the court that they put there, but they did it all to set him up, so that when this, you know, this investigation by Enoch comes about, there isn't going to be much excuse. It's all filed in the courts. And I'm pretty profound on what I say. I mean, I told them exactly what they was. Violators of the RICO Act and or etc. And this man is using it for a platform. And so is this woman and everyone else. It's like, people, I hope you wake up. I don't like talking politics. Seldom do I go further than saying, look, you know, I'd rather not vote for Frankenstein, Dracula, the Mummy, or, you know, the Swamp Thing. I'd rather not have to choose between any of them. Basically, if you want to take a look at what the government's about, look at what's in the news, you know, going to fight this guy or having problems with that guy because they won't buy our guns. They won't buy our, you know, it's McDonald's, you know, it's not what a government is supposed to do. They shouldn't be just arms dealers and drug dealers like when they was bombing Obama's, you know, and the Bush's poppy fields and stuff, you know, using your tax dollars going over there to bomb their stuff, and they're still walking the streets. You got a guy smoking a joint on the corner, and he, you know, back in the 60s, man, he's put into prison for life. People, wake up, man. Bernie, you're a criminal and you know it. So are you, Ted Cruz, and all you others, you know you're criminals. I mean, I love you. Our king loves you. You know, if you kill me, you're doing me a big deed. You know, I'll tell you that. But our king, he loves you, man. We just hate what you do. I mean, let's start cleaning up the swamp here. Let's get these people out of jail that you put there. And I say you because you know what's going on and you allow it. Same thing as if you know someone's a pedophile and you don't say nothing. I mean, take a look at all those indictments anyway. Whatever occurred to them, all they are is the carrot in front of the mule, or the carrot in front of the horse, you know, or the donkey. You know, it's a carrot they can never get. Oh, we're going to arrest these pedophiles, boy. We know who they are. Yeah, come on, baby. Let's go. Let's go. You know, that's why they got the donkey and the elephant, you know, as their mascots and who they relate to. But it's like, oh, boy, come on, people, please. Let's just wake up. I mean, the injustices that was done against me, you know, it's not just me. There's 144,000 that I know of, and there are others that get even worse. You know, they get worse, but I don't know how worse it is. I feel like the guy that, you know, the kid that every morning comes out on the porch, and I'm a spider up in the spider web. And in the morning, it's all just beautiful and glistening. And little boy takes a stick and, you know, spins the web up and tosses it. And I'm like, oh, damn, lost everything. So next day comes around, and boy, I got that web all built right out again. The dew's, you know, making it look like diamonds glistening in the dawn light. Little boy picks up a stick and knocks it down and tosses it. I'm like, damn, lost everything again. Okay, so, you know, after a few more days like that, you know, I'm just kind of like sitting in this little circle with a couple strands just holding the circle, because it's like, I know that little crapper's going to wake up again, man, and he's got his stick. And that's what these people are, you know. They know what's going on. They know what's going on, and their job was to prevent it from taking place. And they haven't. So that's why I don't get involved with politics. Y'all vote for who you want to vote for, you know. I don't have a big enough listening audience I should be concerned. I'm just voicing my views. I'm not condemning anybody. In fact, I'm saying please repent so you won't be condemned. I love y'all. Hate what you're doing. And I love you who view my videos. May our King bless you. May he take those scales off your eyes so you can see these things better. And believe you me, unless I was run through the gauntlet like these people have been supporting the whole time they've been in office, all these governments of the entire United States and everything, you know, the Britain, the Vatican, they're all incorporated. It's a corporation, and they're just putting out effects and staging things, staging theater acts, theatrics. When the military goes out and plays war, it's the theater. You know, I mean, it's an illusion, my friends. This power that they have is because the people gave it to them. I have emancipation papers showing that I've emancipated from the beastly system, though it's not honored by man. And Satan has no choice, okay? Because Satan's bound by the law. Men right now aren't. And Enoch talked about how they think that their sins aren't being seen. Well, yes, they are daily. They're being written down. So, Bernie, please, let's get rid of that ledger. Let's get rid of your tab. Let's get rid of the wages of sin that you've been building up all these years, and instead, you know, put your burden on our King and turn to the honest side, to the righteous side, and start telling people, look, man, if you want salvation and a country that you can love, and I do kind of love the country, the land that we stand on. I don't like the air that you've been poisoning with these chemtrails and everything. And our King talks about what's going to occur to those that have defiled this earth. Okay, so I hope you're not part of that either, Bernie, you know, but somebody is. And there's an awful penalty for them and those that are in feeding the people all these poisons in our foods, who are poisoning our waters, who are poisoners, the sorcerers prescribing drugs to people to kill them, to euthanize us in your Agenda 21 theory. These things are going to have to come to an end, and you can ask forgiveness of it, Bernie. You can ask forgiveness, Kamala. You can ask forgiveness, whoever you are. However wicked you are, you can ask forgiveness, and our King will forgive you. Okay, but it's a long road after that. You're going to have to, you know, start keeping the 10 Commandments. And the only way you could do that is by upholding the 613 give or take laws that only maybe 200 may be all that apply to you. You know, like if you're a woman, you know, or if you're not a woman, you don't have to worry about those monthly things. So there's lesser laws that you have to keep. Okay, and then the third thing for salvation and a country that can be free and blessed is to trust in Yahshua, our King only. So with those words of advice, my friend, for your pursuit of becoming a president Ronald McDonald, whatever you'd like to say, because it's all corporation, has nothing to do with we the people anymore. It's we the corporation, where people don't matter. You know, we're just the grease and the oil between the gears. But it's going to come to a screeching halt. And I just hope you people have been repenting. When you see you're doing wrong, make up your mind not to do it anymore. Turn from those wicked and evil things. I know that you don't feel that which takes place in the body of Messiah, because if you did, you'd really be cringing and you'd have been weeping when they done this to me, part of the body of our King. Only the 144,000 really weep for each other, because we know. And we're all tested in the same ways. And of course, you know, I mean, the tests and trials I went through with all this. Could be that a sister breaks a fingernail and she goes through more torment and everything than I did with everything I did because she broke her fingernail, you know. So we're all tested and tried in the ways that our King finds suitable to bring forth the characteristics in you that he so much desires to present to our Heavenly Father when he turns us back over to him. So with all that, I just want to say I love you. I hate what you do, but there's repentance. Shalom.